I'll just let you know I won't be going in my darkroom, apart from being battered by the recent storms. My darkroom absolutely stinks of urine, of fish and weird smells, so I'm having to get rid of a lot of stuff and give it a good deep clean with bleach. I've got a feeling that underneath the floorboards, which is underneath the shed, I think mice have been getting underneath, or rats even, and making a little nest under there, and they piss everywhere, them things. So I think the smell is coming through. Every time I come in here and start printing, it stinks. It's really, really, really annoying. So I won't be coming in the dark room in this video, not until I've got all that sorted out. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back in the woods. I'm not going to get lost, don't worry. I'm only going to walk very lightly into the woods. I know my way around. Today I've got with me the Nikon F6 and a roll of Oro UN54 film. Most of you know, been watching my channel for a while, I've been getting into that film. I quite enjoy shooting it. And most of you know in the UK we've been battered with storms the last couple of days, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to see when I get closer down the bottom of these woods, but hopefully I'm going to come around and just take some nice pictures. Nice simple stuff, 50mm lens, UN54 film developed simply, and get some nice photographs. And my Patreon members and YouTube members will know recently I wrote an article about having too much choice when we're shooting film, choice of developers, choice of cameras, and sometimes it can get in the way and make you lose a little bit of inspiration. It does me. So I'm going to talk about that while I'm walking around the woods getting some photographs, and I'll tell you why I'm going to whittle my stuff down just to the Nikon F6, Oro UN54 and 510 Pyro as my main tools for most of my photography. Blimey, look at this tree here. This one's gone for a Burton. And like I said, most of you know, we had Storm Eunice yesterday hit the UK, and where I live on the island, we was getting 122-mile-an-hour winds. I did go to the beach in the morning for a few shots, but then I bottled it and went back home. It just got a bit too bad. I'll show you some of those photographs that I took later on in the video. And then most of the day I spent trying to prop up my fences at home, at one point using light stands. I thought they were sturdy enough to hold the fence up. The wind just completely obliterated them. So it's not often that I lose inspiration, I must admit. I don't know, I often sit in my room and stare out the window and sometimes think it's a great day to go and take photographs. But the trouble I always have, and I've only recently realised, is my choice. I then sit there and decide, okay, what film, what camera shall I take? What lens shall I take? What development shall I do later on? How should I develop the film later on? And all this stuff starts going through my mind, and sometimes I've been sitting there for ages before I've even gone out the door, taken the camera off, come back, develop the film, blah, blah, blah. It might be a film that I haven't used much, or a developer that I haven't used much. And, you know, sometimes the results are good, but sometimes they're not so good. So I've kind of had this feeling for quite some time. Not losing inspiration at all, just kind of, you know, always thinking what camera, what film, what developer, how am I going to do it, not on the channel but also off the channel too. And I do shoot a lot of photography off the channel that you guys don't see. And the other day I was on YouTube watching an interview from a music producer called Simenon. He was quite big back in the 80s with a band or group called Bomb the Bass. Don't know if you guys remember that, but a fantastic guy and a very good record producer. And he was talking on this interview about choice in the music industry. I won't waffle on, I'll let you guys listen to what he said. I'll just put a few parts of it, what he said, and it really kind of woke me up a little bit.
I think, you know, I just wasn't ready to finish the fourth Bomb the Bass record at that time, you know, because I think at that period of time I was just mentally and physically exhausted. You know, I'd spent 10, 11, 12 years working with other people, you know, producing bands, and really I think that just took it all out of me. So by the time, you know, I wanted to start the fourth Bomb the Bass album, I felt uninspired. I've always been into new technology. You know, the main difference, I suppose, when I first started was hardware. You know, I had a drum machine and a synthesizer, a CS01 monophonic synthesizer, and that was the beginnings of how I got into making music, you know, really, really simple. And that's how I understood about programming drum machines and understanding sound sculpture, I suppose, you know, by just using these first two instruments that I bought. And as time went on, I felt the process of making music just became more and more complicated because of choice. And I think a lot of the problem I actually had with previous versions of Future Chaos was choice. And I thought back, I thought, why? It never used to be so difficult. You know, and I thought back about how I got into it, and I thought it's just a drum machine and a keyboard. And that's really how Future Chaos got completed, because I said, well, instead of the keyboard I had, I used a mini Moog and a drum machine. And that's how, that is the sound of Future Chaos.
So with that said, after listening to that interview of what he was talking about, the music industry, losing inspiration, he had too much choice. He has too much choice now, rather than back in the day he just had one simple little drum machine to make his music on, and now he's got too much choice and it kind of messes his head up. I kind of related that to photography, or in particular my photography. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take one of my favourite cameras, one of my favourite films, one of my favourite developers, and keep shooting that on the channel sometimes, mostly off the channel in my own time, and really get used to that combination. And don't get me wrong, I love all my cameras. You know, I've got some lovely cameras, some I've purchased and some that have been kindly sent to me and donated to the channel, and I love using all of them. And I think it's important that I do show different films, different developers, different cameras on the channel. Otherwise I'd just be banging the same drum all day long, which would be a bit boring. But I thought to myself, let's just take one camera, the Nikon F6. I thought one film that I really like and I want to get used to, which is Oro UM54, and one developer which I've been enjoying recently, which is 510 Pyro. Look at this old fallen down tree here. This one fell down I think a few storms back, but still good to take a photograph of. And I think we're all suckers for jumping online and looking at all these different films. It nearly fell down a hole. Looking at all these different films and developers that we can play around with. But until you really get used to one particular film and one particular developer, how are you going to get the best from all the others unless you really do get used to it? So that's why I've decided to just keep shooting Oro UM54, which I buy in 100-foot rolls and load myself. That way it's economical, and also using 510 Pyro, which is economical as well. I can really nail that combination, overexposures, underexposures, different scenes, different scenarios, pushing, pulling, you know, and try and get the best of it. I don't even need a 400 speed film or different, you know, if I went out and shot HP5 and FP4 together for different lighting conditions, I could just push this Oro 100 to 400 and still get decent results once I've played around with 510 Pyro to see where the balance fits me. So I don't know how long this, project is going to last me. I'm going to keep shooting the F6, the Oro and the 510 Pyro combination on and off the channel, mostly off the channel for my own personal photography, and really get used to it. In fact, I went and got a new ring binder the other day, and I decided to keep all my negatives from this combination in one place so that I can look back at them for reference, and also keeping the leader of the film once it's developed, just to see how the density of the leader is, so I can compare that with other development times. So, what I'm saying is that I can dabble with times with the 510 Pyro for the type of photography that suits me. Add a couple of minutes, drop a couple of minutes, I can push it, pull it, do whatever I like, but as long as I keep a record and my negatives and the leader as well, that will tell me a lot about the photography and the development process that I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to going on this little journey and seeing where it takes me, along with all my other, photography journeys, street photography, architecture, landscapes, whatever. I'll soon think, do you know what, this little setup suits this particular type of photography. Maybe woodland, if I don't get lost all the time. And these pictures that I'm taking today, they don't even matter. I'm just out enjoying myself taking pictures with this camera and looking forward to getting back and developing maybe a different time to see what I get this time round. So I'm just taking pictures, enjoying myself, chilling out around the woods, talking to you guys and having fun. And it kind of goes back to when I first started photography, film photography I should say. I had a Pentax Spotmatic F, which I've still got, and a Nikon F90X. They were my first two cameras. In fact, the F90X was my first camera. And I just loved shooting the Pentax Spotmatic. It was great camera to use. It felt, you know, nostalgic and old and stuff, and felt pretty cool, hip if you like. I loved shooting it along with FP4 and HP5. And developments wise, I was always using Rodnall because it was economical. I could just stand development and have fun shooting film, getting pictures out at the end of it. The tonal range, sharpness and all that didn't really matter to me. I just enjoyed taking photographs and enjoyed developing film. And the more I played with those combinations, the Rodnall, FP4, HP5 and that camera, the more I was getting used to developing Rodnall and seeing my results come out at the end of it. So I kind of, listening about that interview with Tim Simenon about the choice, I kind of related to that, and I thought, wow, you know, he said about going back and just using simple, keeping it all basic, and that's when it switched the other day. I just thought, why don't I go back to how it was when I first started film, with one camera, one film, one developer combo, and see where it takes me. Hey mate. But it's great that all that stuff is still out there to hand for us film nutcases, you know. It's great that there's different films, different developers, funky stuff for us to try out. And also, all these used cameras online, albeit some are expensive, but some you can pick up for a right bargain. And I get that. That's why people buy them and store them and collect them. If you're wondering about my photography, I'm just looking around at these trees and I'm looking for areas of light that are falling on the trees. This side's a little bit dull, the light's coming down this side a little bit, so I can kind of, you know, pick off parts of the tree which has got light and it's wrapping around it, such as here. But I suppose at the end of the day, that's why we love shooting film, because of the choice, because of the, you know, so much choice, so much different variables that we can do to get a picture. Digital shooters don't have that choice. Okay, you've got a choice of a camera, you've got a choice of a lens, you've got a choice of filters in Lightroom, maybe a choice of SD cards, which could be quite a boring choice to decide on. Depends if you want to shoot fast and keep buffering. But you get my point. You know, us film nuts, we do love the choice. It's great that it's all out there, you know, for us to play with. Most of you know I've been dabbling with colour recently, and now when I'm coming out, I'm actually looking at colours thinking that would look quite nice. This is this green moss on this tree. I just suddenly thought that might look nice on colour. Shooting black and white, aren't I? There goes the choice again. It's like the choice of your aperture. I've got 1.8 to f22 on this lens, so I can use that aperture to be as creative as I like. I just took that shot and a few around here that you've just seen at 1.8, mainly because I'm losing a bit of light and I'm shooting this at 100. But you know, the choice is there in the aperture for me to be as creative as I like. f22, 16, 11, whatever. You know, so I found it really interesting what Tim Simenon was saying in that interview. I'll put the link of the interview in the description if you're really interested in watching it, but it's no different to us photographers, you know. They're all creative people, record producers and recording artists. They're all creative people, and so are we, photographers. So, you know, I think the two kind of go hand in hand when you're talking about losing inspiration. And what he was saying about choice back in the day, it was very simple, very basic, and all of a sudden he's hit with all this software and hardware and new gizmos and gadgets, and it's like, damn, I've got too much in my head, too much cluttered around. But it's kind of funny because, you know, having the YouTube channel, if I kept shooting Oro UM54 and developing in 510 Pyro and using this camera every single week, I'd just be banging the same drum all the time. It'd get a bit boring. In fact, I sent a photograph that I took to one of my mates a few weeks ago, and he went, let me guess, Oro UM54. It wasn't actually, it was FP4 if I remember, but the point is, it was interesting that he said that. It's kind of, I must have sent him shitloads of photographs from UM54. And do you know what? I'm actually looking forward to it. I feel like I'm looking for, I don't have to think anymore. I don't have to sit there and think to myself, God, it looks really good today. I'm gonna go so and so. Oh, what camera shall I shoot? What film shall I shoot? What developer shall I shoot? We've all got probably more than one camera. And if you haven't, you've only got one camera, great, just get used to it. Get used to one film and one developer. But I have that problem with looking at the cameras thinking, which one shall I shoot? And going off and coming back and getting results that really aren't concrete. But hopefully I can start nailing this little combo for my own personal enjoyment. Oh. So anyway, guys, I'll leave you with that. I'll show you a few more of the pictures that I took, and then I'll end the video. Have a great weekend, have a great week, and don't forget, we've all got a choice. Is it too much choice?